Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. This is GenchoMoto, and in today's video I'm going to show you a car which is a SUV slash crossover slash hatchback slash scrambled eggs.
He's going on. The other one is fine?
Oh yeah!
Nice. Save some money.
Do you reckon so? It was alright?
I don't know, let's check.
There's so much stuff. I'm ready to fucking destroy this video. Yes boy! I'm so excited. It's a Peugeot 3008. It starts its production in 2009 and it finishes in 2016. The first facelift comes in 2013 and it ends up in 2016. Yeah boy, it's a crossover. Yeah boy, it's a hatchback. Yeah boy, it's an SUV. Come on baby, dance with me. In today's video we have this beautiful slash not so beautiful Peugeot 3008. I personally think this one really messed up scrambled eggs type of story, but if you follow me through the whole video you're gonna find out why I think this. The production of this Lion starts in 2009 and it ends up in 2016, and this is a hatchback, but some people call it SUV and some people call it crossover. The platform of the 3008 is based on the platform of a Citroen C4, which is a hatchback. Obviously you've got the Picasso, which is an MPV. Even though I think the whole car is complete mess up, there is very good points to it. So if we walk down to the front, I know we started going down to the side of the car, but we're actually gonna move back to the front, and we're standing right in front of the 2014 model, which is the facelift. So when they first come up, we're gonna put a picture just to see here and here how they look. They're a bit more ugly. In 2013 there is the facelift, which is this one, so it does look a little bit more stylish. There is nice added details to the headlights, like the sharp edges here, and the fog lights are a bit more different. The bumper and the grille are changed, and we have that plate here, just like a SUV, but it's made from a super thin metal, and the level of protection that it's gonna give to the car is basically the same level of protection that you're gonna get wearing a summer jacket in the winter times. So it's pretty much basically only for design. We have the same plate at the back, but we're going to talk about it when we go to the back. And as we're moving towards to the side of the car, more to the back of it, you're going to find out in a second. Every time I look at this car, it reminds me of one of them really hot chicks that you first see from the back and you're thinking, damn, this is something amazing and really out of this world. But then she turns around and everything turns into wrong turn type of character. This is exactly the same with this car, but it's in a reversed way. So we have a super nice and beautiful front end. I personally think this again. And we're moving to the side where we have no angles here. Everything's so bubbly. And then we go to the back and it's like, boom! You got them two triangle type, in the same time bubbly tail lights. And they're so far away from each other that it looks a bit more like this little hairy thingy from Ice Age. Do you remember which one I'm talking about? Yeah. So basically that one. Although it is very practical, the whole car is very practical. So we kind of got away a little bit from the review, but let's go back to the side and I will explain to you why, as much as this car is ugly, it benefits from lots of comfort and practicality. We're gonna move around and I'm going to show you absolutely everything that I also love about this car. So the one thing that is very weird, that's not about practicality or anything else, it's just I find it personally weird, is the side indicator, the side blinker, whatever you want to call it. It's not anymore on the wing, it's underneath the wing mirror, which I personally think it's kind of cool. And then we have this chrome part here again, super thin. This is actually plastic now when I touch it on the seal, which is not gonna protect from anything, but it gives a different character to the car. And the doors are so massive. Let me find the key first. The doors are so big, and where it's meant to be hatchback slash SUV type of car, it's so easy to get in and out of the car, especially for elderly people and people that are slightly larger in size. One thing that I need to mention straight away is this handle here. Do not use, do not touch, do not support yourself on it, do not do anything with it. This is purely for style, because it's so wobbly that you can break the whole dashboard, and it's not going to help you, especially if you're trying to get in using the handle for support. You might end up breaking your face somewhere in here. But more about the interior in a bit. And as we're now down to the site, they come up stock from manufacturer with 17 and 18-inch wheels, and they got brake discs in the front and in the back. Their drivetrain is front wheel drive and 4x4, which now it's a bit more like a SUV, but then these are a lot more expensive. Again, we're going to talk about them in a while. We're going to move to the boot so I can show you how big boot it is, and there is quite a few stuff that are actually impressive about the back of this car. So you're opening the boot, and now the ugly tail lights are finally splitting and you don't see that ugly back end, and you're looking at this very little type of boot. But then magically, if you pull this, push it in and back, and then suddenly it becomes double the size. And then if you remove this, well, in my case you need to remove it, otherwise you don't, and you move all of that stuff that we fitted in for absolutely no reason, we end up with a brutally big boot. And underneath we've got a spare tire as well. But anyway, let's say you've got lots of luggage, so this board can be in the boot on 3 levels. So we've got the very bottom level, which drops down in here, and you have that nice large boot where you can, oh my knee, proper sleep in. But let's say you don't need that big space. All you do is you just lift it up a little bit and then place it on the second level, and you have slightly smaller boot, and then you can hide some drugs or anything that you want in here. And then if you want to do just shopping and you want it a nice and convenient way to put your shopping, so you literally open the boot, you place the bags in, you don't have to lean in, all you have to do is this. And if you have to put something underneath, there's them 2 little pins that go in and out, and if you lift up that board, obviously they will clip in here and the board is gonna stay. But I wouldn't rely so much on them because they're so easy to fall that it's not trustworthy basically. And the best thing that I like about the 308 is them 2 handles here. So if you lift them up and then place this one on the second level, obviously we've got some stuff on the back of the seat, but the seats are split in 60 by 40. Then once they go fully down, you have a completely flat space, so this becomes exactly like a van, super spacious to carry out your luggage. And their engines are usually small sized and very economical, so it's a very good work car, again depending on what you want it for. But so far so good. You also got a 12-volt socket in here, again nice and convenient, and 2 handles for you to shut down the boot, which falls off like this, nice and easy. Then we have this plastic trim here, which I don't know what is it for. I find it completely useless. Then I think all of them are coming with rear parking sensors, just because the car is so big and ugly on the back that it needs parking sensors. Although when you're reversing, people probably run away from this creature as soon as they see it, or the other cars are moving away when they see that creature. They hold that plate again, exactly the same like the front, but it's on the back. In fact, I think it's actually glued in to the bumper, so there is no support or whatsoever. And another good thing is you cannot see an exhaust from the back because it's right underneath the bumper. Where it's so big, they've got lots of space to play around. So let me put my luggage in. And with all of that, we're done with the back end. If you've noticed already, we haven't spoke about any issues of this vehicle and what to look for, and it's mainly because unfortunately this car has a lot of them and we won't be able to fit them into one video. Most of them are minor, some of them are massive, some of them are costly. It had about 16 recalls so far from 2009 till nowadays. The good thing is, where there are recalls, it's free for you to repair them. My advice to you is, when you go and look at one of them, just before you do that, always type the number in the Gov.uk site, check for any recalls that they're due to be done, which again, it's nothing to be worried about. It's just something that you have to do straight away once you buy the car, and this is again another reason for you to lower a little bit the price. If you're somewhere in Europe or USA, I assume there's probably other websites where you can actually go and check if the car is due to be recalled for something or not. The another thing that they suffer a lot from is electrical issues. So when you're on a test drive or viewing one of these, again, you make sure you check all the electrics, every single thing, like window slipers, headlights, horn, indicators. One thing straight away that come up in my mind is indicators. They fail sometimes. It's something very silly to fail. So let's say you place your indicator, you're going into a turn. Once you straighten up your wheel, they're meant to click off automatically and they're meant to stop automatically. They don't. You need to turn it off yourself physically, like a ladder, which again is not a massive issue, but this is something that you will have to repair eventually. So it is frustrating. And the second issue I can think of straight away, and the second issue that I can remember straight away, is involving their climate control. So option 2 and 3 usually stop working. This is from their fan blower motor that will need to be replaced, but this is a super common issue for Peugeots and Vauxhall for many years ago and probably for many years to come. So again, check your heating if it's working on all 4 levels, and that's about it. Let's say you're already on the test drive and you're wondering, where the hell is this handle for the bonnet? You look at it, that looks like a phone holder. It's got 2 very weird bolts on here, which I don't know what they are for, but then this is your bonnet holder. And we're gonna move to the front, and coming to the front, I will quickly mention another issue. I think this is gonna be the part of the video where we're gonna mention a lot more issues. So far we've been talking about how good, but at the same time how convenient the car is. And the next issue is involving the headlights. So the daytime running lights are LED, and if one of them fails, you always have to replace it. It's not a massive issue, it's not an expensive issue, but for you to do that, you need to take the front bumper off, which is time costly. So we open in the front bonnet, and we personally have the 1.6. As you can see, the engine is shifted up right into the back of the engine bay, which in general the engine bay is not too small. It's kind of large actually, but then where the engine is more like inside of the vehicle, it makes the work on the engine a lot more harder. And then again, it's super inconvenient because your battery is shifting as well. For you to remove the battery, it might be not so easy like any other car. And then obviously here we have the ECU. The whole design is a bit weird, I personally think. You've got your reservoir here for the brakes, and then you have like it's shoved right in here. This is for your steering fluid, which I don't know why it's just in here. It makes no sense, but it is what it is. This particular engine is the 1.6 HGI active. So this is one of the engines that's been fit into Peugeot and Citroën literally from 2003 till nowadays. They even still fit it. It's very reliable unless the injectors fail. When they fail, it's very costly to replace. Anyway, as we've opened the bonnet, let's talk about engines, and we're gonna start with the diesel ones. In 2008 to 2013, we have a few different engines. So we're gonna start with the smallest diesel engine, and that's the 1.6 HGI, 112 horsepower. And then we have the 2-liter HGI with 150 horsepower and 160 horsepower. And then from 2013 and 2016, the things are changing a little bit, and we have now a 1.6 blue HGI 120 horsepower. Then we also have the 1.6 HGI 115 horsepower, which is basically our normal 1.6 HGI that everyone that drove a Peugeot or a Citroën knows. Then we have the 2-liter blue efficiency HGI with 150 horsepower. And the last engine that we have for this car from the diesels is a 2-liter beefed up motherfucker hybrid 200 horsepower HGI engine that is 4x4 and comes only in automatic transmission. To be fair, with the prices that they're fetching up with these engine and these configuration in general, I would probably go for a Mitsubishi Outlander or something that's a proper SUV. It's not because the car in general, it's because the switching over between diesel and hybrid is another common issue for them, which is super costly to fix. And in the same time, this car is ugly. I think it's completely ugly. In 2016, the things for 3008 changed completely, and we're gonna do a short transition so you can see how the car looks now in 2020. Now I think it looks super badass. It looks super cool. It looks like a proper little SUV that's a hatchback, that's sort of Scrambled X, but then one of them tasty Scrambled X, if I need to be honest. I would personally buy the 2-liter HGI beefed up motherfucker that's hybrid 200 horsepower engine, but if only it is after 2016. So basically that's the phase 2 Mark II, whatever you want to call it, 3008, because it looks very finished. It's not that ugly superstar wannabe, but in the same time I don't want to be car, you know what I mean? It's a bit weird. Anyway, that's enough. Let's go back to the engines and we're gonna hit the petrol ones. We're going to start with the smallest one, which is a 1.2 PureTech 130 horsepower on top of my memory. It's a turbocharged 1.2, nippy enough, quite alright. I kind of like it. And then we have the 1.6 120 horsepower, which is naturally aspirated. Again, this is the type of engine that everybody knows from their old Peugeots and old Citroens and old Renaults and all of that. You're gonna be cutting or what?
Yes.
Okay. And then we have the 1.6 GHP, which is a 1.6 turbocharged 156 horsepower engine. Again, not too bad. It's not that great on fuel consumption. It's not that great on oil consumption either, but it is alright, especially for town drive. And one of the reasons why it's probably better for town drive than the diesel one is because the diesel ones tend to clog up the DPF. This is something that we cover a lot into our previous reviews. Unfortunately, this DPF problem is for every single diesel car that's mainly driven around town. It is a common issue for them to clog up. It is what it is. That's hence why it's so important for you to take it on long drives every now and then. Issues with the engines, as I've mentioned, is injectors and turbos. Injectors are very expensive to repair, but in general, that's about it. If you find a car with a good maintenance history, it is not too bad to take. But then Peugeots and the parts that Peugeots are made with, they're known for wearing out super easy. So you can tell very easy if a Peugeot is well maintained or not. The seats are gonna be ripped, or they're gonna have lots of marks from wearing out. And I'm not talking about spills from coffee and spills from drinks and all of that. I'm talking about rips and scrambles on the seat, scratches on the interiors because they scratch a lot more easy, broken buttons, broken that, broken this. Once you go and look at one of them and you start to find these little issues from wearing out, the car's probably not been well maintained. Yes, it doesn't mean that somebody just sat in and drove it and it not serviced it, never. It could be maintained properly, but then chances are close to zero. So look for one with full service history, definitely. It's good to take it in a garage to check it. The car should run Look for one with full service history. The car should run super smooth. It should run quiet. So any tapping from the engine, especially on the first start up, it's a bad indicator for the car. Stay away from that. Again, transmissions are sort of okay. Automatic ones are known for failing in their converter, so always make sure that it shifts nice and smooth. Manual ones sometimes can be a little bit sticky. It's not a massive issue, but one important thing that you need to listen for is the dual mass flywheel, if it rattles or not. This is again another expensive issue that it will cost you a lot of money if you end up buying one, and then if you end up having to take it into a garage to repair it. With all of that being said, I need to mention there is 4 different types of transmissions. We're gonna start with manuals, which again, as normal, it's 5 and 6 speed. 6 speed is super economical, especially in the 1.4 BlueTech HGI engine. Then we have the 6-speed automatic. Then we have the 6-speed automatic, and we have the 6-speed automated manual, which I don't know much about, so it's best for you to go and Google that one if you're that interested in the car. We're only doing these short reviews, or trying to do short reviews with short information that's gonna be as best as possible for you to be confident when you're looking one of these. And with all that being said, let's jump in the car, see how it feels inside, and we're gonna zap it or gap it, or what? We're gonna call it an end. That's useless to say. Just let's go to the car. Woo-hoo! As we're sitting inside of the car, it gives you mixed feelings straight away. Again, it's not the prettiest thing. It's not ugly at all, don't get me wrong. I don't think it's ugly, but I don't think it's super fancy either. On the end of the day, this is a Peugeot. It's not like a high-end, high-class car. So these stuff are to be expected, but it's definitely weird because it's super spacious. You have loads of headroom. The whole dashboard is mega big. Like, I'm stretching up my hand, I'm probably another half a hand away from reaching the end of the windscreen. So this is pretty much like a one big table where you can actually have food on it. It's probably bigger than the Chrysler 300C that we shot a few months back. And then you got the steering wheel, which is sort of big, but in the same time it's got that sharp edge on the bottom, and then it's got that sporty feeling and sporty sort of shape, which is not normal for that type of car, because this car is definitely everything else but not sporty. But anyway, let's talk about the things that I don't like and the things that I like about the car, and we're gonna start with the things that I super like about this car. Massive doors with massive pockets here, which you can place literally as big bottle as a probably liter-and-a-half bottle of water here. You can place lots of different stuff, and then so it's super nice that you can rest both of your hands while you're driving. And you have that little vents here, which are for this side of the window, so it defogs your windows super quick. We have 2 speakers on the front and 2 on each side of the door. Then obviously handles, super easy to access, and all the buttons for your dashboard are pretty much over here. Here in the central column is super easy, so you've got hazard lights, unlock and lock button, simple as that, no other buttons. And this car comes with aircon, super basic one, 3 different options here, obviously hot and cold. I don't need to explain these stuff, we covered them a lot in our videos. AC button you just press in the middle. And the climate control is a digital one. It looks a lot more fancier. Obviously, again, you can control your temperature. I don't need to cover this. Again, we have a little pocket here, which is enough for a mobile phone, which I wouldn't recommend keeping it there anyway. It's probably for some little stuff. One thing that annoys me as soon as I got into the car for first time is the media. The media is super ugly, and the media has been used in Peugeots from 2003. It feels like they created more media players than actual cars. So now they have excess of medias and they're fitting them into the new car just so they can shove them out of the way, which is not unnecessarily a bad thing because this kind of helps the environment. But in the same time, it's 2014 and we're using that old type of radio. It doesn't fit the age of the car, but it is what it is. The good news is that you can always remove it and put a slightly newer media. You've got that screen as well, which is for the media. So if you actually put an aftermarket one, the screen is not going to be operating anymore. So I would suggest you just get a double din. You can even get a sat nav, which leads me straight away to the next thing, which is the sat nav. Some of these models are coming with sat nav depending on which trim level you get, and the sat nav is just located right over here. Super nice, at least what I think, and super easy for you when you're driving. The windscreen is massive. Good vision all around the car with good big size wing mirrors. They're probably bigger than the wing mirrors on my Tirano, which is a very good thing. On this side we have the buttons for the windows. They're all electric, all 4 of them. They have that rubbery feel-ish. This car particularly is on low mileage, so they're not really worn out, but I assume the higher the mileage is, the more likely they're gonna wear out. And then we have 2 little buttons here, which are for the traction control and the parking sensors, so you can turn them off. Then obviously you've got the height of your headlights and another little pocket, which I find completely useless. And there is this little pocket here, which I personally think is probably for your fuel card, because I don't know why would you leave your debit card or any other card here. So most likely it's for a fuel card. Nice and convenient, to be fair, if it is for this. In fact, let's try it out. And I think I am correct. It is most likely for a fuel card. And you have 3 little pockets. I think they're for coins, but I wouldn't leave coins there anyway. And then if you pull that handle, you have like a little glove box where you can probably keep paperwork, service history of the car or anything else. It's nice and convenient to store little things. That's about it. We have a handle for the steering wheel, which will allow you to have your steering wheel up, down, obviously backwards and forwards. Again, something very nice to have. because not everyone has the same height and size. Again, as normal, all the buttons here for the wipers, for the headlights, that is something that I don't need to mention. You're gonna find out yourself. We got a super nice cluster that lights up in white, and that's another thing that kind of gets me annoyed, because the cluster is in white and then you've got the media and the rest of the car lighting up in that old orange type of color, which you're used to seeing in the old Peugeots. But it is what it is. At the end of the day, they do need to save from materials. I understand that, because in order for a car to be cheaper for sale, then obviously you need to kind of save money from details as extra. The gear stick is quite nicely located and convenient. I do like the fact that this side of the column is sort of angled-ish, and then it continues to be like quite upright high column, so the gear stick is not somewhere in the bottom. It's very conveniently placed. I do like it. And then we have a 12-volt socket. I do like the fact that there's no ashtray, so again it encourages people not to smoke in the car. Some visors like any other one, and then on here, when we start up the car, we have that little display which show us which seats are occupied and which seats do not have a seat belt. Once you put your seat belt on, every single light goes off, as you can see, and there is obviously lights for the airbags. At the minute there is no one at the back, but we do have some other stuff, so the weight scales on the seats are counting this as a person, which is something normal. Obviously the sound system of the car is okay. It's not one of the best ones, but it has a good quality. Another thing that I need to mention, the car is super safe. It's got airbags almost everywhere. So we've got the curtain airbags, we've got airbags on the sides, we've got airbags in front of us, literally on the back. We've got child safety controls. Very good family car. And some stuff that I don't like is where the interior is made so cheap, these plastic trims are scratching very easy. So stuff for braking, like for example, as I said, the handle. And another thing which is not exactly bad but I find weird is you can see the color of the door. So this part of the door is completely visible, so when you're driving and you turn around and you see that, and obviously this is white, this is black, and you got the window. It's just a bit weird. As I said, it's not exactly bad, but it takes time to get used to it. I reckon if it's a different color like red or white, it's gonna be even worse. We've got a black car, so it's not too terrible, but then again, this is not a bad thing. This is just something that you get used to it. We've got two nice cup holders here, or lens holders, whatever you want to call it. And then if you lift it this way up, we've got quite nice pocket with two pockets here, additional ones for something. I don't know what is it yet, I haven't figured it out, but you can also easily remove it and don't worry about it. Then we have another 12-volt socket with auxiliary read and a USB port. It's probably most likely for charging. And what I found out is, see, in that pocket here you can basically collect a whole box of eggs, and it's so big that I can shove my whole hand right in. Literally, this is how deep it is. Massive! And I still cannot believe why it's so big, but I find this super convenient and super nice. I cannot actually believe it's so big. And this is something that definitely the car wins points with. I find it super convenient, and probably it's so big because we have the glove box, which is not big at all. You can barely fit anything. In fact, the glove box that's underneath your steering wheel, it's bigger than this glove box, but it is what it is. Seats are nice and comfy, and they're from normal fabric material. You do get the top trim levels, which are with leathers. I would probably prefer the fabric a little bit more than the leather, simply because the seats are quite flat. Your seat position is a SUV type position, so with leather seats I presume that you're gonna slide a little bit more than in the fabric ones, but simply that's because that's literally all it is, my opinion. And then here, them buttons, you're gonna have to figure them out yourself. I will simply mention that this one is for your cruise control. You can control it from here, but there is a lot to explain for them too. I don't find them super comfortable to be placed here. I just don't find it very comfortable, or it's probably hard to get used to it. Most Peugeots are that way. On the other hand, you've got controls, additional controls for your media, and this particular one comes with hands-free, so you can listen to music and you can answer your phone literally from the other side of the steering wheel. And the automatic Peugeots have shift flaps just behind the steering wheel. So I personally think it's just too much in here. Especially imagine if you had the shift flaps on here, and then you've got the medium control, steering wheel, cruise control, and all of that. It just creates a lot of mess. I mean, that's another downside that I personally think. But in general, I'm quite impressed with the interior. It's simple. It hasn't got much extras, it hasn't got much buttons, it's just simple. Last thing to mention before we move at the back, they sometimes have problems with electric handbrake. They don't have a manual handbrake, it's only electric. Sometimes they fail and it's cost you to replace. The issue that they create is simply they do not disengage the handbrake, so you're not able to go anywhere, and you're gonna have to get your car on a recovery to the dealership, garage or whatsoever. With all of that being said, let's go to the back, see how it feels at the back, and we're gonna go for a drive. Right, as we're now on the back, again, same thing, mixed feelings. So you're sitting right up height. It feels exactly like an SUV. It's spacious, which is super nice. Lots of leg room, lots of headroom, which I really like. It is basic. We do have an armrest with two little cup holders. They're not too great, but they will do the job if you have to use them. And then if we remove that cover here, this is a pocket for skis. So when you fit your skis in, if you don't want to take your seats, you can just do that and the skis will come out right from here. A penny. So on the other side we have good big pockets on the side, two speakers and the buttons for the windows. Simple as that. Two little pockets which are mesh. I would suggest do not use them. And a little pocket here which is absolutely useless because you cannot do anything with it. And then we have two little fans just over here, which are quite nicely done and designed. It kind of gives you luxury feeling on top of all that basicness here. And we have a 12-volt socket. Again, something very nice that the car is full of 12-volt sockets. You don't struggle for example, let's say you go on a long trip and you need to fit your sat nav, which is going to use one of them pockets, and then that's it, you're done. You cannot charge your phone, you cannot do anything, but it is what it is. I think easy, 3 people you can fit on the back. You also have ISOFIX for the kids. The downside is the headrests, they need to be sitting up quite high in order for them not to be uncomfortable for your back, I should say, because I'll give you a pure example. So this one is all the way down, we sit in the middle, and this is right in our back. So not a great feeling, but it is what it is. For the price that you have to pay for the Peugeot, it's quite nice in general. That's what I think. We covered all of it. Inside we covered the boot, so we're going now for a drive. As we're driving the streets of Y, I'll only mention a few things. The car drives very nice, very comfortable. Your driving position puts you in a place where you actually have enjoyment of this driving. It's exactly like SUV, you sit right up high, but in the same time you turn around and it all looks like a little hatchback. The suspension is super soft, which again makes the driving comfortable, but in the same time you need to be really careful around corners because the body roll of this car is massive. The 1.6 diesel engine is probably perfect for this coupe. I reckon the 2-liter diesel is a little bit more faster, but if you're getting that type of vehicle, you're probably looking for an economical family car, so I would definitely choose the 1.6 between the 2-liter. The 1.6 has a road tax of £20 as well. It's torquey enough, especially for town drive. It's economical. It's not exactly fast, but it's not slow either. And one thing that I like on the cluster here, on the little display, it tells you when to shift to be able to make the most economical drive out of your journey every time you get into the car. The gear sticks in a very nice place. In general, I'm pretty happy with how this car drives. You got plenty of vision, the brakes are good, the engine in general, the torque inside is good. The body roll is one thing that is bad, but then if they stiffen up the suspension, it's gonna drive a bit more like a sports car, which means it's not gonna be as comfortable. It's probably a very short driving part, but there is not really much to say. Again, big windshield for plenty of vision. The car's between 2006 and 2013, which is before the facelift. The front end looks okay, but it's not as pretty as the facelift one. The rear end is exactly the same on phase one in general, regardless whether it's a facelift or not. It's just ugly and ugly and ugly as hell. I mentioned this many times in the video. But in general, it's super comfy. You got plenty of space everywhere. You got plenty of pockets. It's convenient. It's practical. Anyway, models between 2008 and 2013, you can probably find from anything. Right, this is very good. Between £1,500 on something like around 130k. All the way up to 3, 4, 5 grand depending on mileage. Again, after facelift, they usually start from around £3,500 for something on around 140k. And if you want to get something with lower mileage, like for example this model is on 70k, it will cost you around 5,500 up to 6,500. Again, trim levels can make the car a little bit more expensive. Automatics are again a little bit more expensive than the manuals. I would prefer the manual. It's just simply less trouble, less hassle, and it will be a lot more expensive to fix if something goes wrong. So as you can tell, this car is pretty much for everyone, with that price range between 1,500 and 6-7 grand for top-notch models. And that's all about it. To be fair, in general, I would say good little car. It's got plenty of issues like any other use case on the market. So in the end of the day, the only thing that is really important for you is to make sure you give it a good check before you buy it, and then maintain it on time every single time. Look for troubles when they first start to occur, because if you let them occur and be there without sorting them, they will usually become a lot more bigger troubles. That's about it. I hope you really liked the video, and yes, it's probably long, but we try to make it as helpful as possible, because this is a slightly different car than the other ones, and this is the first Lion that we're shooting anyway. With all that being said, hit the like button, put a comment below, subscribe and comment, because that's how you help us grow. That's how you're gonna help us have more time for the channel, and I will see you next time.